Nothing. Nope. Just ready at dawn.
Yep.
But you know what's important?
What?
Diablo.
I'd say Diablo is one of those games that's important in the grand scheme of video games. In the
Yeah, you know,
history of the video game industry, it's very important.
yeah, it's a series that's deeply important to me. You know, I grew up playing Diablo. It's one of the first games I ever played. Me and my father, we played Diablo together when I was but a child, and it's still the only game he plays at all.
I definitely have people I know like that who used to be into games and then they became adults post college and became Diablo players. That's
Yeah,
all they
he plays
play.
Diablo and he plays Halo and he doesn't play other video games.
Yeah, this
And
guy just
that's
plays
what he
Diablo
plays.
though. But yeah, I know the person you're talking about. Uh,
Yeah.
well, the creator of Diablo 1 and 2 has some things to say about modern Diablo and modern ARPGs in general. He says
One
fast.
Mr. David Brevik.
Yes. He says fast leveling up in modern ARPGs cheapens the entire experience. He thinks the focus on speedy progression on today's RPGs make a worse experience. In an interview with Video Gamer, David Brevik, who was a senior designer and lead programmer on Diablo and design lead on Diablo 2, criticized the modern take on the genre for rewarding players too quickly. One of the main criticisms leveled at Diablo 3, which Brevik didn't work on, is that players can reach max level in 3 to 4 hours, depending on how they play the game, much faster than previous games in the series. According to Brevik, the pace of Diablo 2 is, quote, great because it takes the player longer to level up, arguing that slower progression makes it more satisfying when you reach that point, and too many ARPGs are more focused on leveling up players faster. When you're shortening the journey and making it kind of ridiculous, you cheapen the entire experience and saying that the fun in an ARPG is actually getting to the end, isn't getting to the end. It's the journey. He also suggested while the Diablo games he worked on had moments where a lot of enemies there were a lot of enemies to defeat, modern ARPGs focus on too much on throwing hordes of enemies at players and having them defeat en masse. I don't find that kind of I don't find that as kind of personal and realistic like Diablo 2. The pacing on Diablo 2 is great. That's one of the reasons it endured. I don't find killing screens full of things instantly and mowing stuff down and walking around the level and killing everything very enticing. It just feels like that. I just don't feel that is a cool experience. It just is. I find it kind of silly. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that I kind of agree with this. I think I've played more Diablo 3 than any of the other games I've played in the Diablo series, despite it being my least favorite. I'd say even Diablo 4 I like more than I like Diablo 3. But I played a ton of it, and it definitely had this issue where you're not actually playing the game until you've maxed your character out. And so whenever, I mean, we would get like friends over to play with us, and we would power level them in over the course of an afternoon
Yeah.
to the end game, and I mean, we would just go from there because like, yeah, the story of the game doesn't fucking matter. Everything that's going on is irrelevant. You just you get the big shiny drop, and then you look at it and you judge whether or not it's a good drop, and that's all the game actually was. So you were here to do that, not to see what's going on with this lady. Is she gonna turn into Diablo? Yes, she is.
I think that I kind of agree with this. And while I'm not as much in the ARPG space, though I do think this is a big part of why PoE has become more popular than Diablo, is this exact
Yeah,
thing, and why games like Monster Hunter are also getting more popular, and why WoW Classic endures and why RuneScape endures is like
yeah,
it's a journey. Like it's not just okay because like I talked with friends about this where they like WoW Classic more because modern WoW is like beeline the level cap as hard and as soon as you possibly can so you can play the real game of doing these same 12 dungeons until you do them perfectly, doing raiding, doing PvP, doing delves. Like it's not so much an adventure RPG D&D experience as it is like I don't know,
yeah.
like a combat spreadsheet simulator.
Yeah, it's a mutual activity more heavily than it is like an experience. And I
Mhm.
mean, you mentioned RuneScape for scale. RuneScape took me 10 years to reach a level cap on.
Mm.
That is not a game that you reach
That
that
is not
quickly.
that's probably a bit too much in the other direction. That's
Despite the fact that you can reasonably do it in a few months, I think, and the end game is also completely inaccessible until you do it. Like you actually do have to hit near level cap on your combat stats to engage in the end game content there. It's a very unique scenario. But yeah, I think that that long-term journey that you experience in something like Diablo 2, which Diablo 2, you're effectively going to beat that game 3 times before you hit
yeah.
level cap. And if you're not getting like somehow power leveled by another player, uh which I think you're a lot less likely to do in Diablo 2, you're a lot more likely to engage with that game and like okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna actually play through the game and hit level cap in a natural fashion. If you're a bit more of a veteran player, you might go, "Oh, I'm gonna grind at this period because I know that there's a drop here that's gonna make the rest of the game significantly easier." Things get more efficient, but you're just gonna play through the
Well,
game. You
uh,
play through the main story.
I mean, and I do think that I do think that like I look back on WoW in the old days, that was the same thing, right? Where like if you go
Yeah,
play vanilla WoW on a fresh server right now, then yeah, it's totally that like it's gonna take you 3 or 4 months to hit cap. Real for most people, like if you have a job and you're not just living there
mhm,
poop socking it, fucking, full degen life. And
right.
I think that
I
if
poop
you
sock at work, so too busy poop socking elsewhere.
yeah, okay, there you go. But if you're just going full ham on it, then I would say that if you're not doing that, yeah, like 3 to 4 months, and like you're not gonna just like stop and farm places outside of like very specific points. Like I
Yeah,
can think of like, okay, you're probably gonna farm Scarlet Monastery for a couple of weapons that make mid game a lot easier. Like there's a couple
I'm
of
gonna complete this quest early, even though I'm maybe unleveled for it because I get a thing that makes leveling much easier for this entire period of time, so I'll
yeah,
engage with this hard piece of content.
right. Like I play warrior in vanilla, and I know at level 30 I get my class quest that most of the time you realistically can't complete until level 37. But I'll go beg somebody I know to please come help me with this.
It's like a powerful elemental, right? Like you have to go fight a
Yeah,
powerful
yeah, that's
elemental
the end
that'll
of it.
absolutely fuck you up otherwise.
Yeah, so
I've heard about this because of learning things about hardcore WoW recently, and that being a really big moment for warriors that reach that level.
yeah, so like, but I go and I get help with it, and getting that axe at like level 32 is like such a huge like carry
Yeah,
for you for the back half of the game. But yeah, like I think that it's the same thing. Like it was a lot more about the journey. Like endgame's cool and raiding's cool, but what you end up doing is you log in for your raid twice a week and then you're done. It's not like
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Well, and when Vanilla WoW came out, and
mm,
they did WoW Classic again,
mm,
uh, there was a huge shift in the content I saw about World of Warcraft posted online,
mm,
where what I had never seen before, which was people making narrative style videos of reaching the level cap for a given period of time. WoW
mhm.
Classic came out and there was a whole genre of content that was guy going, "This is my experience of getting from 1 to 60 or 1 to 50."
Right, because like, look, I play retail WoW, and the retail experience of going 1 to 80, which is the current cap, is like 1 to 70 goes super fast, like you blink and it's practically over. And
Whoa,
then,
wait, the cap went down?
well, yeah, it went down like 5 expansions ago, dog, or 4 expansions ago. Like
Oh,
it went up.
because I didn't know that. I played retail WoW when the cap was 100.
Okay, so the cap went up to 120, and then they were like, "This shit needs to stop." And then
Mhm,
they lowered it in Shadowlands down to 60, and then it's been
yeah.
creeping up again. But level
Oh,
80 right now, it's like, yeah, like 1 to 70, like you can get done in like 15 hours. like 10 if you know
Yeah.
what you're doing, and then it's like 10 more hours to like you get a nice story and there's some cool lore stuff in the new expansion. Like it's a
Or
genuinely good story, and then but you
give
still
them
both.
money,
Mhm.
then you just do it instantly.
So even if you buy the boost, do they still make you do through the story campaign? So there's like
They make you do
no,
it still.
yeah. So
I see.
they so like at least for one character, you need to play through the campaign.
I
The
see.
most current expansion. They don't make you do with other ones, of course. It's not Final Fantasy 14 where they're
Well,
like,
okay, so they do cut out like a massive portion of the experience, though, if you
oh
give them
yeah,
money.
yeah.
Gotcha.
They cut out the like 1 to 70, which is like you know. Because what they do now is when you make a new character, you don't do what 14 does or old WoW used to, where you have to play through all the expansions. You go through the starting zone, which is 10 levels, and then you pick an expansion to level through, and that's your level 11 to 70 experience.
Oh, I see.
So you get
Um,
like one
mhm.
cohesive thing for a while. Yeah.
uh, yeah, but it's just evidently faster. You're rushing to the end
Oh
because
yeah, like
that's where
just
the game is.
yeah, like you're like even that's why I even tell new people is like when my girlfriend started playing, I was like, okay, play Newbie Island, so you know how the game
Yeah.
works. We'll go through like some early game stuff a little bit after that, and then like we'll
Hmm.
use the boost, and then we can teach you from there. Like
Yeah.
it's
And Diablo 3, that was incredibly prevalent. There is no game aside from the end game in Diablo 3.
Diablo 4
Um,
is the same way. Like my girlfriend and I
yeah,
played through the Diablo 4 campaign, and we're like, and we played through the expansion campaign too, and we're like, this is so like we had the difficulty entirely maxed for that what you can do before finishing the campaign, and we're like, this is still way too easy. Like we're just melting
yeah,
everything we touch.
it was not particularly difficult.
Like and that's not fun, like because you're not like thinking, it's not an adventure, it's just okay, you pull them all in with your attack, and I'm gonna whirlwind, and we're gonna do this over and over and over again until we get to the part of the game that's actually fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my big thing about Diablo 4 over Diablo 3 is I literally just enjoyed the narrative more.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it is a better story.
Diablo 3, I hated the narrative vehemently. I mean, I played it when I was very young, and like it was just a whole thing amongst me and my friends that we all hated the story of Diablo 3, but we'd play the game.
What's your opinion on Path of Exile? Path of Exile 2?
Path of Exile 2 is evidently really interesting on account of the fact that it's taking a much slower approach to combat. Like, boss fights are like they're kind of soulsy, from what I've seen. And that's
Hmm.
that's good to me. I like that. I think that it provides more opportunity for your good character build to like actually feel good because it's taking down what was originally difficult content that was like actually execution wise difficult content and making it easy. And then also on the high end, it allows you to engage in difficult content where the numbers have been scaled up such that that original challenge is maintained and that your skill can be displayed. I think that Path of Exile 1 was certainly interesting, but it just felt like Diablo. Like I was playing like a Diablo. It felt similar to Diablo 3 in like how it felt while I was playing it. It didn't feel as much like a Diablo 2, but it's clearly much more inspired by it. I do find its efforts to make a much more in-depth and complicated system of character building to be admirable and cool. And those original ideas are great. And seeing Path of Exile 2 kind of maintain that. It's simpler for its leveling than the previous games, but not even remotely simple comparison to its compatriot of Diablo. Uh, so I think they're fascinating games. I don't have the life left in my body to play them.
Okay. I have considered trying Path of Exile 2. I saw the I saw like the footage, and my girlfriend and I got like she seems pretty done with Diablo. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I could give Path of Exile a shot, right?
If you
Right?
play a Diablo, like a Diablo 4, then I think Path of Exile is certainly worth a shot. I have not played Path of Exile 2 personally because I'm actively avoiding it. But I think it seems like a good game, and it definitely has the support because I know the Path of Exile 1 has an incredible amount of support behind it, and there's a
Hmm.
very active community.
Hmm.
So like there's a lot worth engaging with in Path of Exile. In fact, Path of Exile 1 is still getting active support and still has an active community.
Hmm.
And it's just taking a completely different development path to Path of Exile too.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, but I agree with the guy. Like, it feels like most RPGs are a lot more handholdy now. And
Yeah.
not just ARPGs, but definitely ARPGs. And I feel like that part of the reason I liked Dragon's Dogma 2 last year a lot is that
Hmm.
it didn't do that. It was just like, no, figure it out, dickhead. You know?
I believe there is a subtle internal genre shift, a split, where they're still both called ARPGs, but I think that many years of extremification of genres is going to result in people kind of making a distinguished, name between these ARPGs that are like go go go, accelerate, fucking destroy a million enemies instantaneously, and these slower, more difficult ARPGs. Well, I call them more difficult. On a whole, they might not be more difficult, but they give more weight to the individual enemy.
I would argue that Dragon's Dogma is not nearly as hard as people make it out to be. Like,
Yeah, no, I didn't actually have a hard time at any point in Dragon's Dogma.
I definitely had parts where I was on the struggle bus for a little bit, but not anything that was too crazy.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway,
I mean, I'm a psycho, so I immediately made myself insanely powerful and did everything to become super strong. So I never had a hard time at any point in the game.
see, I'm the opposite person where I'm like, that's just the suggested level, right? You
No,
know.
I gotta nuke the first boss. I gotta just bring calamity and destruction to the nearest small goblin uh before they even know I exist.
See, I am Mister. I didn't hear no bell.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, anyway, before we get into the next news story, hey, if you like that, you should like and subscribe and follow us. And we're on social media and have a Discord. You should go all those places. Super Gamecraft. Follow, like us, come chat with us about games every single day in that Discord. We got some speedrunners going through Castlevania right now. We got people doing fighting games, Marvel Rivals, all that good shit.
Yeah.
Um, anyway,